Well, last time we talked, we left off with the Shunammite woman who left for us or made for us an example of what it would look like to live within one certain political system, but to live in it in such a way that we don't trust it for everything that we possibly need in life, but that we live in that system, but still trust God's system, right? The Shunammite woman was given the option. She could trust the king, or she could trust God and his people. She chose to trust God and his people, and she was taken care of. We have that same choice today. We can live in our own political system and trust it for everything and grow frustrated and angry when it lets us down. Or we can live in our current political system but trust God for our provision and then not be all that surprised or let down when our world system fails us, because it's going to fail us. Today I want us to go on in 2 Kings chapter 4. There's an interesting story that I think proves or shows us another option for us when it comes to the world's system of politics. In 2 Kings chapter 4, there's a story of a poisoned pot of stew. Now I'm just going to read the whole thing here to you, or a chunk of it. It says, when Elisha returned to Gilgal, there was a famine in the land. As the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, he said to his servant, "Put on the large pot and boil stew for the sons of the prophets." Then one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered from it his lap full of wild gourds, and came and sliced them into the pot of stew, for they did not know what they were. Should never put anything into a pot of stew that you don't know what it is, right? So they poured it out for the men to eat. And as they were eating of the stew, they cried out and said, "O man of God, there is death in the pot." And they were unable to eat. But he said, "Now bring meal." He threw it into the pot and said, "Pour it out for the people that they may eat." Then there was no harm in the pot. I love this story. I love this story for all kinds of reasons. I love that the men cried out, "There's death in the pot." Those aren't words that you want to hear after you just made a meal. I know that if I said those to my wife after she just made something, I don't know that would be received very well. But it sounds to me like not only was this pot gross, but it was probably poisonous. There were a couple things actually that this could have been. These guys could have been experiencing severe stomach pain, diarrhea, they could even have experienced death. But the bitter taste tipped them off that there was some poison, there was death in this pot. And so what are they supposed to do about it, right? How are they going to fix it? Well, they could throw out the entire pot, make something new. They could have tried to strain it out. But what the answer to the problem is, hey, go put some flour in it. And so they added some flour to the pot, which did something to the poison, which took care of it, and then they were able to eat the stew. How awesome is that? I want us today for just a second to imagine that we are the pot of stew, right? We keep, one of the slogans 4 years ago when it came to our political system is that we needed to clean out the swamp, right? Look at this swamp that we have. Look at this swamp that we have of political leaders, of politicians, it's a swamp. And it would be easy for us to relate this swamp that we have in our political system to this stew. And it would be easy for us to be shouting out, "Man, there is death in the pot. This pot is no good. There is poison in this pot. There is death in this pot." And we have some options then of what we get to do about it, right? So what do we do about this messed up pot of stew that we have? What do we do with this, quote, swamp, if you will? Well, we can throw it out, start all over. That is definitely an option. I don't even know how we would go about doing that. I mean, every time that we come up to these seasons of election, people say, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to leave the country and all that. Nobody left the country that I know of last time. But you also hear people say we just need to get rid of them all and start over from scratch. I know I've been one who has said that a bunch. Let's just get rid of everybody and start over. But really, you know what? It's not an option. We can't get rid of everybody and start over. It's just not an option. It wasn't an option for Elisha and the people that were eating this poisoned pot of stew. That wasn't an option for them. So what are we supposed to do? If we can't get rid of everybody, and if we can't start over, then what do we do? Well, we could try to strain it out, just like that was one of their options. We can try to get rid of all of the bad ingredients, get rid of all the bad apples, if you will, and we can fix that. Man, we try to do that every 4 years, right? We try to do that. We elect a new president. We elect new congressmen and women. We elect new senators. We elect new leaders. We elect new judges. We elect this. We elect that. It's just crazy to me. We try to do that every 4 years to sift through the ones that we don't want there any longer. We elect new governors. It's just crazy. We try to do that every time. And I feel like it just doesn't go anywhere. Have you ever made a bad pot of stew and then actually tried to strain out the bad ingredient out of the soup once it's been cooked? You can't do it. It's impossible. The flavor's still there. Even if you get that bad thing out, the flavor is still there. The soup's already been tainted. And I feel like that's where we're at right now in our own political system. We can try to strain out the bad ingredient, but it's already been tainted. We're not going to be able to do it, and we try it every election year. Right now, I got this ballot, and we're going to try through this ballot to strain it out and get it the way we want it. And then you know what? 4 years from now, we're going to try again. We've been doing this for so long, and we just never seem to be happy or satisfied. So we can't start over, and we can't strain it out. So maybe what we need to do is what Elijah did with this pot. Maybe it's time for us to add some flour to the pot. Elisha added flour to the pot. You know what Elisha did? Elisha took this pot of stew that they were saying there's death in the pot, and he gave it life. That was the only solution. He transformed the ingredients of the stew with flour. He put something into it that could change the whole thing. The ingredients of the system needed to be transformed. That's what we need to do. There has to be a way for us, a better way for us to transform the system in which we exist. So how do we do that, right? How do we add flour to the pot? How do we add life to the pot? That's where we come in, folks. That's where we as the church of Jesus Christ come in. We have got to speak Jesus into this pot. We have got to bring life into this pot. Jesus came to bring life into this pot. In Luke chapter 4, Jesus said when he announced his ministry that the Spirit of the Lord is upon him, that he has been anointed to preach the gospel to the poor, that he has been sent to release the captives. He's come to give recovery of sight to the blind. He's come to set free those who are oppressed. He's come to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord. That's what Jesus came to do. Jesus came to give life into death. Jesus came to forgive of sins. Jesus came to transform a world. Jesus is the flour that the stew needs so that it doesn't kill everybody. And then when Jesus left, he made us that flour. In John 17, Jesus said, I am sending them into the world just as you sent me into the world. Folks, we are the flour. Time and time again, Jesus says that we are the light. We are the salt of the earth. Salt always makes stew taste better, right? We are the flour. We are the light. We are the ones that have to speak life into these things. Jesus came and showed people a different way to live. He came and gave a new kind of politics and a new way of living. That's our job today. Our job today is to go about being the flour in this world. Lasting and true change doesn't start here. It doesn't start here. It doesn't start at the ballot box. Stop trying to make change here. Vote. I'm not saying that we need to disengage and ignore the system that we're in. I'm saying we need to rethink how we go about changing it. And vote. By all means, vote. By all means, find out who you're voting for, what they stand for. Vote. Whoever you feel like God is telling you to vote for them. Absolutely do that. But I'm telling you, if we really want change, then we've got to be flour in the pot. We've got to speak Jesus into the pot, because lasting and true change doesn't start here. It starts here. It starts in our hearts. It starts with you and me. We must engage in the political system in which we find ourselves, but we must do so as a people submitted to a different way of life. We must do so as a people who are living with a different set of values and principles. Lasting and true change starts in the hearts of the people. It starts from the bottom and goes up. It doesn't start at the top and go down. So our political engagement has got to be defined by Jesus' standards. Hear this. Our political engagement has got to be defined by Jesus' standards, not by the political party we have aligned ourselves with. The standards of Jesus are far greater than the standards or values of any political party or system. And if we really want to see change, if we really want to be the flower in the pot, then we have got to put aside all of those things and be Jesus in that pot. And so the way we vote, the people we vote for, the things we advocate for, the things we advocate against should be things that characterize the new society that Jesus came to introduce to us. They shouldn't be the things that characterize our particular party. They should characterize Jesus and Jesus first. So before you vote, let's engage in some political activities of a godly kind. Let's spend some time in prayer. Let's spend some time reading through our voter's guide, if you will. And if other people are voting differently than you, that's okay. Don't get bent out of shape by that. Let's continue to be Jesus in this world. Let's continue to be the flower in the pot so that we can see the change that we desperately want.